This week, at Watkins Glen International, Trackhouse Racing will debut what has been dubbed as Project 91, with Kimi Räikkönen piloting that car. While Justin Marks will only field this expansion entry for the one race this season, their goal is to hopefully run more races beyond this year. But what is Project 91? For those that don't know, Project 91 aims to bring international personalities to the sport of NASCAR. Now the idea is nice on paper, but trying to convince drivers from across the globe to drive mobile tanks around the trickiest road courses we have to offer is definitely going to be a challenge in and of itself. But imagine if all the stars could align and we could have anybody we want driving that 91 car. Who would the fans want to see? A lot of these drivers will be based on what I've gathered from the fan base, so let's get into it. I'll be talking about 5 drivers from 3 branches of motorsports: IndyCar, F1, and any other motorsports that may not have a group of potential drivers, rather just one in particular. Starting off with F1, the most obvious name that comes to mind is that of Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo has been very vocal in the past in terms of his love for the world of NASCAR. Growing up, the Australian was a huge fan of Dale Earnhardt, so much so that when F1 made a new rule stating that the drivers could pick any number they want in 2014, Ricciardo chose the 3. Last year, Ricciardo made a bet with Zach Brown, which said that if Ricciardo won a race, he'd have the opportunity to test in Dale Earnhardt's old Wrangler Chevrolet. And because he won Italy, he got that opportunity a few months later. Now obviously, if Ricciardo wants to come to NASCAR, he won't be making any starts on the ovals. After the whole McLaren contract mess came up, many fans wondered if Ricciardo would make a full-time switch to IndyCar or NASCAR. However, Ricciardo later stated that he doesn't want to run the ovals. In my opinion, if we ever do see Ricciardo behind the wheel of a stock car, it would probably be a Watkins Glen. A, it's a road course, which is what he wants to stick to, and B, it's in the middle of F1 summer break, which schedules perfectly. And on that note, I think that if any F1 driver wants to come into NASCAR, they would probably make a start at Watkins Glen. But back to Ricciardo. Having Daniel come to NASCAR would be huge for this sport, and it would be a popular start with media and insiders clamoring to get his thoughts on driving a stock car, to fans enjoying the fact that he's there. Now from an 8-time F1 winner, we move over to a 103-time F1 winner, 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton. Much like Ricciardo, Hamilton knows a little bit about the stock car world. In 2011, Lewis Hamilton made laps around the Watkins Glen racetrack, swapping cars with Tony Stewart, who got to drive in Hamilton's McLaren. Lewis is another transcendent figure beyond the stock car world, who would be an incredible asset to have in a one-off. The fanfare around that one star would be huge, and a ton of eyeballs, not just in the US, but across the world, would be drawn. Personally, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, I would love to see it. And another thing is, he would actually get to go behind the wheel of a car capable of winning a road course. Next is Fernando Alonso. Alonso's connection to NASCAR began in late 2018, when he and Jimmy Johnson swapped cars in Bahrain. I remember there being rumors after this that Alonso would replace Johnson in the future, though they only lasted a week. While he won't be replacing anybody in the sport anytime soon, it would still be pretty cool to see the Kamoa brand potentially on a Trackhouse race car and see the double world champion, a legend and icon of F1, making a one-off at the Glen. Then there's Kevin Magnussen. K-Mag has some American racing experience, having made starts in IMSA and IndyCar last season. And in terms of NASCAR, he tested an SHR car in 2019, as well as one this past spring with Chase Briscoe, Riley Herbst, and Cole Custer in attendance. Magnussen is known to be quick at adapting to unknown conditions, and I think he'd do pretty well, even though you are throwing him to the deep end. There would definitely be a reasonable amount of support for Magnussen in this hypothetical one-off, though not as much as the other ones on this list. And certainly not as much as 28-time F1 winner and the defending Formula 1 champion Max Verstappen. Verstappen doesn't really have any NASCAR experience, but hasn't ruled out trying to wheel a stock car in the future. Verstappen has said that he likes to race stock cars on a simulator, but said it would take a while to get fully acclimated in real life. If we ever do get to see the Dutch phenom dabbling into NASCAR, it would definitely be bigger than any other driver on the list, considering he's arguably the best F1 driver in the here and the now. Now moving over to IndyCar, one name that comes to mind is that of Helio Castroneves. Castroneves has wanted to race in NASCAR and has had the desire for well over a decade. While he was at Team Penske, the captain shot that dream down, but now that he's at Meyer Shank Racing, things look to be coming together. In the 2022 SRX season, Castroneves was told that he'd get a Daytona 500 seat as long as he won a race. And because he won the season opener, it's very likely that we might see Project 91 branch beyond the road courses and into the world of super speedways. Having Castroneves move to NASCAR for a one-off would be a popular decision, and if he could somehow pull it off, the fans in attendance would certainly get a treat, as we'd be able to see Spider-Man in action, albeit in the NASCAR world. Then there's Jimmy Johnson. Johnson is not an international driver, but for an exceptional stock car talent as he, with 7 championships and a boatload of other accolades in NASCAR, I think making an exception for him would be just. Now there is a lot of divide in NASCAR as to whether Johnson should come to race. Would it be a mere publicity stunt? Would he be competitive? Wouldn't it taint his legacy if he's driving for a team other than Hendrick and a car other than the 48? And the race many want him to participate in is the Coke 600, potentially pulling the double. The logistics of it all has only further fueled the concern. Time will tell us if Jimmy makes that one-off in the future, and time will tell us if that really was a good decision. Next, we have Scott Dixon. Back when Chip Ganassi Racing was in NASCAR, Dixon wanted to dip his toes into the NASCAR pool. Unfortunately, Chip shot that down. Dixon says he's still open to potentially getting into NASCAR, and having an iconic name like that come down to our sport would be big. Dixon is the winningest active IndyCar driver right now, and having that wealth of experience combined with the lack of experience in NASCAR would definitely be a fun storyline to follow, and an interesting excursion for the 6-time IndyCar champion. Then there's Will Power. Power has a NASCAR connection in the fact that he drives for a team that is also in NASCAR, Team Penske. Now the chances of Penske allowing Power to come to NASCAR are slim, but if by some miracle he allows it to happen, he would be an amazing personality and would really liven up the whole experience, even if he isn't that great. And finally, we have Pato O'Ward. Hailing from Monterrey, Mexico, O'Ward has been childhood friends with another Mexican, Daniel Suarez. The two know each other quite well, and because Suarez is on Trackhouse Racing, O'Ward has an instant connection with the particular team right off the bat. I've mainly talked about older drivers while talking about IndyCar drivers that could participate in Project 91, but how about a younger driver? Especially a younger driver who is a fan favorite in another series. Now moving past open wheel racing, let's dive deeper into other branches of motorsports. Starting off, there's Nick Tandy. Tandy has won the 2015 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 2015 Petit Le Mans, the 2018 24 Hours of Nürburgring, and the 2020 24 Hours of Spa. A world-class driver across the board, he's been bad fast in whatever kind of car he has gotten into. On top of that, he has a desire to race in NASCAR, and I don't see why he'd be a bad option at all. Then there's Shane Van Gisbergen. Gisbergen is a generational talent in the supercars world, and having that kind of skill come over to NASCAR is sure to refine the talent of everybody in the field. Giz has tested a Trans Am car, and even just looking at the Gen 2 supercar, there seems to be a lot of similarities to the NASCAR Next Gen car, which should make the transition as seamless as possible. Well, how about a 4-time World Rallycross champion, Johan Kristoffersson? One of Sweden's best, Johan has shown the ability to adapt quickly. I mean, just look at what he did last season during the inaugural Extreme E Championship. He also has plenty of other racing titles to his name. It'd be a bold pursuit to go after him, but in my humble opinion, that's what Project 91 should aim for. The very best of the best. And nobody fits the off-road bill better than Kristoffersson. I almost forgot to mention Jimmy Johnson's ally in the Rolex 24, Kamui Kobayashi. Kobayashi is an unbelievably underrated talent, and what better way to showcase an aspect of that by demonstrating some versatility. It might be a challenge getting a Toyota-affiliated driver to come over and drive a Chevy, but I mean he does drive for Ally Cadillac Racing, and the GM relationship might be enough to squeeze an exception. Finally, we can't talk about unbelievable generational superstars without talking about Sebastian Loeb. One of the best, if not the best, rally racer ever. A 9-time WRC winner, he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Barring the fact that he's 48 years old, Loeb has not stopped showing interest in competing in different bodies of motorsports. He's done the FIA World Rally Race Championship, WRC as previously mentioned, and even DTM. I ought to think he should add a NASCAR start onto his resume. But these are just some of the personalities that could race in NASCAR, and some of the personalities that I and some others want to race in NASCAR. Now, I want to hear from you. What drivers do you want to see participating in Project 91 in the future? What kind of tracks do you want to see them at? Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, this has been the news. I'll see you.